it just showed the warmth of their relationship and their friendship, which is not normally visible to anybody, nor should it be, because it's private. Michael Lindsay Hogg, the director, set that up with a microphone in a flower pot, apparently, which I thought was pretty awful to me, and not a cool thing. However, no one seems to care now, and it just shows us no one ever got to see the individual guys like that film showed.
Interacting like that. Yeah.
Or them working together or any other. You saw them being interviewed and being amusing or taking the piss or, being bored or whatever it is. And you read about them in the press and you listened to their music and you were blown away. But you never really, really got to see what put it all together. And that documentary, although it was the tail end of what they did creatively, it gives you a good insight as to how they worked.
Well, it's interesting because you can really see their facial expressions. They could see each other. Paul, Paul would be looking at John. They'd be
but
laughing at things.
Again, they were rehearsing. It was they needed to be able to converse just as much as play because they were working stuff out.
There was one point where they brought boxes of amplifiers in, and they opened them up. It looked like two Fender Twins or something. And I think a Leslie cabinet came and they opened it up.
The Leslie cabinet was my idea.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd used it with somebody previously and suggested it to George, so they got one.
It just seemed like, whatever gear that they had, whatever gear showed up was what they used on things.
Yeah, but the thing is, again, it was a documentary film for a start off. It wasn't meant to be an album.
Right.
It started out as just a documentary. And as far as the gear's concerned, I'm sure whatever amps tipped up, I don't remember personally what they were or why. Again, they were rehearsing, so it wasn't critical.
Yeah.
And if George had wanted a different amp, he'd have just asked Mal to get him one and he would have arrived,
You're known for this miking technique, right? The Glyn Johns miking technique, and people talk about this all the time.
Yeah. The refinement of that came on the first Led Zeppelin album, miking John Bonham in my normal way, one over the top, one from the side, both equidistant from the snare drum. And a bass drum mic and a snare drum mic, which I very rarely ever used. And we cut a track. I took one of the 67s to do an overdub with Jimmy Page, acoustic, put the acoustic on, and we said, okay, let's do another track. Put the mic back on the drums, walked back into the room. Bonham had started to play, lifted up the faders, and the microphone had been assigned to one side of the stereo, and the other one was still in the middle where the drums always were. And I went, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what would happen if I took this one and put it over there. So, it was just common sense, really.
Wow.
Like everything, probably you're the same. Anything, it's a mistake. It wasn't some kind of genius. It was just a bloody mistake, and I responded to it.
One of the things about the first Zeppelin record that I love about the drums, other than John's playing, is there's a slight overdrive on them, which really gives them a lot of attack and presence. Was that the console at Olympic? Would they have a Helios console there?
Helios didn't exist when that console was built, but it was designed by the man I stole away from Olympic to form Helios.
Okay.
A guy called Dick Swetnam. Yes, so it was a predecessor to Helios, but it was the same guy. Yeah.
Now, would you overdrive the console a little bit just to kind of get a little extra gain on it?
Drums, I would tend to be more than normal and the fader back down a bit, yeah.
Because they have a really great presence to them, and I can hear a little bit of just grit on them.
Yeah, I've never really understood. Listen, I'm going to be talking nonsense here. To me, my school of music that I've been involved with, my job has been to capture the skill and the sound that the individual's giving me. Nowadays, that's entirely different. They don't want to hear what anyone's giving you. They want to manufacture something that's new or different, which is fine, okay, good luck. But my whole deal was to try and capture the skill of the musician performing, which was his sound, really. So, in order to do that with the microphones that I chose to use, which were you invariably use 67s, You can't mic closely with those. They're just fatal. And even with a vocal, you don't want to be further than that. The sound of a drum kit or any instrument builds, they're not designed acoustically for the listener to have their ear up against
Right,
it,
exactly, exactly.
It's all common sense, really. So the further away you are, the more likely you are to get the true sound of what the guy's delivering. And in the case of John Bonham, not only a brilliant drummer, but he really knew how to tune his kit. Extraordinary sounding kit. And I had him on a riser a lot of the time, which sort of made it even a little bit bigger.
What kind of microphone would you typically use on a bass drum back then?
A D30.
That's a big
one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's easily the best.
Why do you like that particular mic?
Because it sounds good. Simple as that. There's no explanation. It's a really good microphone.
Would you place it in the center of the drum or off to the side slightly?
I'd move it about. I mean, very often, some drummers don't use a front head on their drum.
Yeah.
If they did, you'd have to put a cushion against it or whatever because it would be too ringy. Invariably, I would mic from the center of the drum, but I'd move the mic about until I got it right. Equally, if there was no front head on it, you might want to deaden the back head a little bit. Just a matter of experimenting, really.
With a drummer like Bonham, would you probably not use a snare mic?
I almost certainly didn't use a snare mic, no.
Okay.
The only reason I would use a snare mic is if someone's playing brushes, perhaps, or it would depend on the material, or if I wanted to send echo from a close mic on the drums rather than one of the overheads or both the overheads.